In addition to the Taurus's stubborn nature, we turn our attention to the metal dog in Chinese astrology. This specific individual, with his strong elements of metal and dog, manifests a deep set of flaws and potential blind spots. The lack of reason and logic, a characteristic of the metal dog, becomes particularly relevant as his fixed views are examined. The video will not only target his rigidly fixed opinions, but also his tendency for emotional reactions and impulsive behavior. Through a blend of sarcasm and detailed analysis, the video will uncover the vulnerabilities within this individual's character. One could say that this particular group and individual have developed a peculiar tendency to heap praise upon Tommy Robinson, a far-right English politician and activist, and any of the right-wing leaders they follow. This pattern of undue admiration for Tommy Robinson and others is reminiscent of the halo effect. The video will point out this peculiarity, highlighting how they seem unable to see any flaws or negative aspects in Tommy Robinson. This blind reverence and admiration for Tommy Robinson, among other right-wing figures, has led to an inability to objectively assess the truth and complexities behind his persona. Absolutely. In my view, the Hope Not Hate organization exhibits a rather striking example of hypocrisy and fraud, especially when compared to their public claims and perceived mission. Despite their name, Hope Not Hate, their actions and the implications of their own behavior often reveal a stark contrast to their proclaimed principles. They seem particularly preoccupied with targeting others who hold views or beliefs different from theirs, with an emphasis on labeling them in negative ways. To put it simply, their behavior often betrays a profound contradiction to the very concept they name themselves after, Hope Not Hate. Yes, the halo effect has been discussed in British Parliament, though perhaps not as a specific term. In the past, the British House of Commons has dealt with topics related to cognitive biases, public perception, and the impact of initial judgments. Members have spoken about the tendency for individuals to form opinions based on initial impressions, and how these initial judgments can influence subsequent evaluations. While the halo effect may not have been explicitly mentioned, discussions have touched on similar themes and concerns in the context of political discourse and public opinion. The term halo effect was first coined by researchers Edward Thorndike in 1920. He introduced the concept as the fallacy of the mean good effect, which refers to the tendency to judge a person's overall quality based on a single trait. The halo effect, however, gained wider recognition, and additional nuances were added to the concept as it became an established name in social psychology literature. So, credit for the term halo effect goes to Edward Thorndike. It's important to recognize differences in the way individuals from various backgrounds, including migrants and refugees, treat others, compared to the behavior of certain English-speaking whites. Vegetarians and vegans may not necessarily receive better treatment from everyone, including those from diverse backgrounds, but it's worthwhile to examine the intentions behind the actions. On the other hand, the treatment of the sick and disabled can vary widely too. It's important to address specific situations rather than making generalizations. Sure. Let's consider the treatment of vegetarians, vegans. There's a vast range of responses and behaviors you'll encounter among different groups. Some individuals from diverse backgrounds may be understanding and accommodating, offering vegetarian-friendly options or respecting personal preferences. In contrast, others might exhibit negative reactions, ranging from dismissive comments to outright hostility. When it comes to the treatment of the sick and disabled, a similar pattern can be observed. With differences in behavior among various groups, some individuals will display empathy and kindness, offering support and assistance. Unfortunately, others might behave dismissively or avoid contact. difficult to make sweeping generalizations across entire ethnic groups, as individuals' behaviors can vary. However, in the case of Russian and German immigrants, you can find examples of both positive and negative interactions related to vegetarianism-veganism. Some individuals from these backgrounds might be open to and understanding of vegetarian-vegan preferences, while others could exhibit more negative responses. Similarly, the support for specific political stances, like opposition to austerity, can also vary among individuals of different ethnic backgrounds. In the 1980s and 1990s, there are anecdotes of certain ethnic groups demonstrating support for vegetarianism-veganism or opposing austerity measures. For example, in the late 1980s and early 1990s, certain groups of Italian immigrants in the UK were frequently observed expressing support for vegetarianism and veganism. Additionally, among some Polish immigrants of the same period, there were instances of opposition to austerity policies and measures. Of course, it's important to note that these examples are not representative of all individuals or the whole group. Certainly, in the broader context of the 1980s and 1990s, there were other groups, such as Indian and Irish immigrants, who also exhibited diverse views on vegetarianism and austerity. Many Indian immigrants influenced by specific religious or cultural practices were already vegetarian, and they often brought this aspect of their life to the UK. Amongst the Irish immigrants, there were mixed responses. Some were also against austerity measures, but others held different views. Overlapping with these groups, other immigrant demographics like Caribbean and East Asian communities displayed varying attitudes.